House Bill 3709, Bill in the waiver. Mr. Secretary, read the bill.
House Bill 3709, an act concerning education. Third reading of the bill.
Senator Villanueva.
Thank you, Madam President. House Bill 3709, as amended, provides that beginning with the 2025-2026 school year, every public institution of higher education must provide their students with access to healthcare professionals authorized by the state to prescribe contraception and medication abortion. If the public higher education institution's student health services includes a pharmacy, that campus pharmacy shall dispense the contraception or medication abortion if the student chooses not to fill the prescription at a third-party pharmacy. It also adds that beginning with the 2025-2026 school year, public higher education institutions with student health services shall make information available on their student health services website detailing how students can access medication contraception on campus.
Are there any questions? Senator Tracy.
Thank you, Madam President. I do have some questions of the sponsor, if she will yield, please.
She indicates she will yield.
Senator Villanueva, we had some questions in committee, and I want to continue on them because I genuinely still do have legitimate questions. Your bill requires that if you have a university pharmacy and health service, then they must dispense certain medication. Is it possible that already we have universities that do this?
Senator Villanueva.
From my understanding, there are some universities that are already providing these services, and there are a few who are not providing these services. We're just trying to make sure that all public universities are consistently doing the same thing.
Senator Tracy.
And with that, I'm wondering if you have a university employed pharmacist that has a religious objection to dispensing abortion medication, will the university have to hire another pharmacist, or what do you anticipate will happen if that is the situation?
Senator Villanueva.
So from my understanding, for licensed pharmacists, it would be going against, again, the requirements of their job. But at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is make sure that students are being provided the services on campus, especially if they're already paying for health services through their tuition and through the fees in which they pay.
Senator Tracy.
I understand the intent of your bill, but I do know that the right of conscience still exists in Illinois, and there are pharmacists who do object for religious reasons for providing abortion medication, and I think it's a real fact that you have to consider that if they do, will the university have to hire another pharmacist under your bill?
Senator Villanueva.
Again, Senator, what we are simply trying to do is ensure access for students. The decisions in terms of hiring is up to the university. It has always been up to the university. What simply we are trying to do is make sure that students on public university campuses in the state of Illinois have access to contraception and medical abortion if they choose to use those services.
Senator Tracy.
All right, next question is, under your bill, are we operating under, what I'm trying to ask is, your bill mandates that the healthcare provider must dispense after a healthcare provider has written a prescription. Is that a standing order from public health, or is there actually a medical provider, a medical doctor that would be issuing the prescription?
Senator Villanueva.
Senator, I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. Can you repeat your question?
Senator Tracy.
Certainly. Your bill provides that there'll be a healthcare provider, doesn't specify that it's a medical physician, but it just says a healthcare provider will issue a prescription and then the pharmacist must dispense. Is it your intent that a medical provider, such as a medical physician, be the one to issue the prescription?
Senator Villanueva.
Senator, so just like any other prescription medication, the student will have to have a consultation appointment with the provider who can prescribe the prescription. So again, this is someone that has been licensed to do this through the state of Illinois, which again, that's why we have the department like IDFPR that does the licensing work, but this is a licensed healthcare provider.
Senator Tracy.
Okay, then the next question I have is the question of cost. There's no addressing of who pays for this medication under your bill. It just says they must do it, but there is nothing in here that provides for cost. For instance, under the university kiosk bill, it was referred to as a retail kiosk. So with that, you understand that somebody's going to be paying for the materials that they get from a university kiosk. In your bill, this bill, it does not refer to any retail or anything like that. It just says must provide without any reference to cost.
Senator Villanueva.
Senator, students will pay for this the same way any other medication offered at a student health center, and they can use their insurance.
Senator Tracy.
I'm glad you said that, because if that's your intent, that's good, but it is not actually provided in this bill. I think that's a flaw. But next question is, if a student is on Medicaid, will they be able to use the Medicaid insurance for the contraceptive pill?
Senator Villanueva.
Senator, from my understanding, again, having been a student at the University of Illinois, I paid, and again, I'll have to double check and check back, but I paid for student insurance through my student fees to cover those basically insurance at the medical health center on campus. So again, what we're trying to do is to provide students an opportunity in order to get access to services that are being requested, and that is simply what we are trying to do right now.
Senator Tracy.
The next question I have is, does your bill provide that the pharmacist or the health provider that issued the prescription will have any follow-up medical treatment with the student?
Senator Villanueva.
Senator, that is up to the healthcare provider and their patient, and as that is covered by HIPAA, that is not a question that I can answer for you, because that is up to the healthcare provider and their patient to determine that.
Senator Tracy.
My next question is, I believe in the original version of this bill, it provided that the emergency abortion pill would be one that is approved by the FDA. Is that still in your bill?
Senator Villanueva.
In this bill, it is unnecessary to reference the FDA in this definition. This is merely cleanup and tightening of the language. There is no reason or need for the statutory definition of emergency contraception to be tied up to the FDA approval.
Senator Tracy.
Thank you, Madam President. To the bill, please.
To the bill.
I think most of us already know how we will vote on this bill, so I don't want to belabor it, but it is requiring pharmacists to issue very complicated abortion pills to college students who may or may not know the risk that they are taking. Miloprostone and misoprostol have very serious side effects. And I think that it's important that we make sure all of our students have access to health care, but also know the risks of these abortion pills. They are not regular pharmaceutical drugs that you take normally as a college student. And for that reason, I think we need more oversight for that to make sure that they receive appropriate health care. Likewise, it's clear that we're going to be asking for taxpayer funds to provide for some of the costs that might be associated with this through the universities. It's not clear that the student will have to pay. I think bills should be written to answer every possible question. And lately in this chamber, that seems to be very missing, and I think it's troublesome. I would urge a no vote.
Senator Resin.
Thank you, Madam President. Question for the sponsor, please.
She indicates that she'll yield.
Thank you. Senator, can you define who exactly can prescribe the abortion pills?
Senator
Who can-
Villanueva.
Senator, healthcare professionals qualified to prescribe and dispense contraception to patients in Illinois.
Senator Resin.
Thank you. Can you define healthcare professional?
Senator Villanueva.
Okay, it's not working. There you go. Senator, again, I'm not exactly sure what you're trying to get at with the definition, but in the bill, what we are referencing is statute that's already in existence. And so, again, what we're trying to get at is healthcare professionals who are qualified and licensed by the state of Illinois.
Senator Resin.
Thank you. Well, I've asked my question very plainly. Who can you define who a licensed healthcare profession? And where I'm getting at is, can anyone prescribe an abortion pill at the clinic who has a license, who practices medicine in some capacity?
Senator Villanueva.
Senator, again, we're talking about licensed healthcare professionals that are licensed by the state of Illinois in order to provide prescriptions. Again, I think we clearly understand what we're talking about when we're saying this. Other things like this have been referenced in other types of statutes, but we are specifically getting at individuals who are licensed by the state of Illinois that can provide prescriptions.
Senator Resin.
Thank you. Can you mentioned too when you were answering the previous speaker that the intention was for a licensed healthcare provider who has not been defined can dispense medication just like any other medication. Any other medication, a good example would be an antibiotic. If you go in to one of these clinics and you're sick, you receive an antibiotic, but there's really no follow-up. Does your legislation mandate that the student who is seeking this service and has been given an abortion pill by a licensed professional follow up with a doctor.
Senator Villanueva.
Senator, I said it before and I will say it again, that is up to the healthcare provider, the licensed healthcare provider, and the patient to determine. Seeing as we are not licensed healthcare providers, we are not the ones determining whether or not there's a follow-up, whether any of that is required. That is literally up to a licensed healthcare provider and their patient to determine.
Senator Rezin.
Thank you. To the bill, Madam President.
To the bill.
Thank you. As you could tell, this is a contentious topic. I appreciate the senator. I know we've asked before, and we do have concerns. I understand where you're coming from. You had students from the University of Illinois come to you with this bill. But I do feel, for those of us listening here, that our questions are relevant. This is not an antibiotic. This is not, if I have a sore throat, I'm coming into a clinic for an antibiotic. This is an abortion pill where potentially there are huge side effects, but yet the questions cannot be answered. Who's a licensed professional? Simple question. This is a very complicated, deep topic where you need a physician to oversee the dispensing of the pill, if you choose, and the follow-up. And the fact that we cannot get this answer today should leave you to pause about this bill. Because of that, I ask for a no vote. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Bryant.
Thank you, Madam President. Would the sponsor yield for a question?
She indicates that she will.
Thank you. Senator, the Hyde Amendment is still in place at the federal level, which says that you cannot receive federal dollars for reimbursement for abortion. Under this bill, and my understanding from you is that this could be Medicaid patients, could also be insurance, and because it's issued by a university, I'm not really sure what the funding mechanism is, but is it possible that if someone goes in for Medicaid, that there would be no reimbursement to the university for these medications?
Senator Villanueva.
Senator, again, I'm trying to be very clear with my answers. You all are asking about technicalities of issues that aren't always the case in the state of Illinois because we have previously passed reproductive health care access to people in the state of Illinois. What we are simply trying to do is give access to healthcare services to students in the state of Illinois that are already getting other forms of healthcare services at their universities, their public universities, and we are simply expanding the access to specific type of medication that students worked, organized, and passed a referendum at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign campus, and this is trying to help them in their work to ensure that this is happening across the board at all public universities.
Senator Bryant.
All due respect, Senator, I understand what you're trying to do. I'm very opposed to what you're trying to do. I don't know who you all is, but it's offensive to use you all. That being said, I hope that you understand what the Hyde Amendment is, because it's a federal issue. You're talking about the state permitting drugs to be dispensed at a public university or college, which receives federal dollars at a time when we are trying to make sure that our universities are funded adequately. So I think it's a relevant question, not only to ask, but one that should have an answer for, regardless of what you are trying to do. This body, to the bill. This body has
To the bill.
Thank you. This body has a responsibility to ask questions. And whatever we are doing in sponsoring bills, we have a responsibility to answer those questions. Many of us have universities in our districts or in our regions, and regardless of what the sponsor is trying to do, there are questions that have to be answered about funding mechanisms. We all have our reasons for voting yes or no on an abortion bill, but this goes beyond that. Taking that out of the equation, we have
Stick
a
with the question. Stick with the question, Senator. To the bill.
Thank you. This is a very emotional issue, obviously, but we have a responsibility in this body to ask questions about how things will be funded and how funding reimbursement will happen. This is not a good direction to go into this bill, is not a good direction to go to while we're trying to figure out how universities are going to pay their bills down the road. I urge a no vote.
Senator Anderson. What purpose? Senator Anderson.
To the bill.
To the bill.
Thank you, Madam President. With respect to my colleagues and their questions, technical questions, I want to sum this up as clearly as I can. Abortion is not healthcare. Abortion is murder. And murder is wrong, and making taxpayers pay for murder is definitely wrong. This could not be more clear. This is wrong because God said so. God said. So I ask every one of you to please think about what you're about to do. You're not only voting to take an innocent life, you're voting for taxpayers to then pay for it. Repent and believe.
Senator Villanueva to close.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to give kudos and credit to the incredible students at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, my alma mater, who passed a referendum urging the Student Health Center to provide access to medication abortion last year. Actually, I guess it was last year. I want to give them credit because, again, my alma mater is a place and a bastion of leadership development and of incredible minds and free thinkers who are doing incredible work even when people think that they might still be considered children. I was doing that type of organizing when I was on campus, and it's what's led me to this position right here, right now. And so I want to commend the students across a lot of different campuses that are doing a lot of amazing organizing work, because that's what changes the world. Abortion is healthcare. Abortion is healthcare. Abortion is healthcare. And while there might be people in this chamber who disagree with that, it's not about morality. It is about rights. And access to reproductive rights is about rights. That's not a morality question. That is a question of whether or not we have rights in this state. And the work that we have done in the previous years and the previous General Assemblies to make sure that we are making sure that people have access to reproductive rights is an important job. And our job is to continue to legislate for them and to make sure when those voices are smothered by other individuals because they feel that their morality is superior to the rights of individuals in this state, I want all of those people to know that you always have fighters in the legislature that will fight for you. This is a good bill. Vote yes.
The question is, shall House Bill 3709 pass? All those in favor will vote aye. Opposed, nay. The voting is open. Have all voted who wished? Have all voted who wish? Have all voted who wish? Take the record. On that question, there are 37 ayes, 19 nays. House Bill 3709 having received the required constitutional majority, is declared passed.